Hello and welcome to the show. Today's exciting because this is my first episode of a new series that I am launching called 0 to 7 Building a Soul-Led Brand. Now, essentially what 0 to 7 is it is starting over from scratch with 0 and building 7 figures and hopefully beyond 7 figures. But let's start with 7 figures. I was inspired to create this season because I launched a very lucrative business. It was a creative agency, and that creative agency brought in 6-figure months. I did have dream clients and I did have my dream life, but I was still missing something. I felt unfulfilled, but more than that, I became so dysregulated and suffered with anxiety that I had to take a step back, really stop working for an entire year and reassess what was working in my life and what I needed to do to rebuild. And during that time, I ended up healing my entire nervous system. And that healing sent me on a completely different path that now has become my wellness company. It's called Unewel. And this wellness company is all about you being restored to your highest self so that you can live a soul-led, passion-fueled life. And on that last day of life, feel like you truly did live in alignment with yourself. So this series is really important for me to share because I want you to know that in my personal journey of starting over, it has not been easy. And you would think after I had built so much success previously that it would have been easy. I had the tools then, I should have the tools now. But because I shifted niches completely and I started over from 0 after one entire year of being off of social media, not working with clients, it wasn't really easy to just dive into the new landscape of algorithms and social media content creation and digital marketing as a whole and just marketing as a whole and also building an audience from nothing. Because when you take an entire year off and then you come back in a completely different space, you don't always keep the same audience that you had before. So I wanted to share the most vulnerable, real, behind the scenes, truly authentic, raw version of what it's like to build a soul-led business. Because if you're listening to this, chances are you are in the same space, whether you are starting from 0 with no followers, no money, you're bootstrapping this, or you're a few weeks, few months, or even a few years in. There are hard times. And I want to let you know that I'm here to hopefully inspire you and help you to sustain what you have, but build something that is sustainable for the long run, something that truly is passion filled, but also something that can be a legacy. And that's truly what I'm trying to build here. Now, I want to focus this episode on a little of what I did right and then what I did wrong so that you can know where I was when I started. The first thing is I had to assess my overhead when I decided to take an entire year sabbatical. Let me preface this by saying I didn't realize that my healing journey was going to take an entire year. So that sort of put me out financially because I wasn't anticipating having such a high overhead when I wasn't making money. And I waited until really too late to make the decision to change my lifestyle. That should have been the first thing I did when I committed to going all in on this new venture. But I tried to sustain everything I had. And what I had at the time was employees. And I had 3 different homes. 2 of them were Airbnbs. One of them was a vacation home that was also an Airbnb. But then I also had my dream home here in Los Angeles that I loved. I had so many systems and operations in place that I was paying for. And just the everyday, expenses that we all have. And so instead of downsizing early on, I waited until almost the full year was up to downsize, even though I had made the decision right away to downsize. So that was the first mistake that I made because that money could have sustained me a lot longer had I been wise about that. But I wasn't. So if you were watching this, I hate that I have to be this vulnerable and transparent with you, but I'm telling you now that there is absolutely a way you can bootstrap a business and still build from 0 to 7 But if you do have money now that is in savings or retirement or whatnot, wherever your money is allocated, definitely be smart when you decide to go all in on yourself. And if that means that you have to work a part-time job or even a full-time job on the side and treat this as your passion project to start with, I would definitely consider those options, because I did not. And now I'm 2 years into this sabbatical and only a couple months into rebuilding, and I have pretty much been living off of everything that I had. So now I am in the situation where it's go time. There's no time to think about what to do. It's just make a strategic move and lean into that from the soulful place. So that was one thing that I wish I had thought out sooner. And again, I wasn't regulated at the time. I had not even healed my nervous system. So I was operating from ego of not wanting to change the lifestyle that I had, instead of thinking about the future and what my lifestyle could look like once it was sustaining itself. So that's just one thing to take into consideration. Now, what I did right is, in this transition, after I decided to sort of allocate and not really become a minimalist, but simplify my life, when I made that decision, I also made the decision to get rid of studio spaces. I used to rent studio spaces when I would shoot with my clients, whenever I would work with my teammates, anywhere. So I decided that to eliminate that cost for the long term, when I moved, I would convert my garage into a studio. And that was really a smart decision, because even after I moved, I went and shopped around for studio spaces, and I found some that I liked. But when I did the math and ran the numbers, it just didn't make sense logistically. If I wanted to build something sustainable, I needed to do something different than what I'd done previously. So the landscape of building a business has shifted a lot in 2 years. So when I built my first business, which technically was 10 years ago, I didn't have the same reality that I have now, but I also had less skill set. I had just less everything, honestly. And I was able to build a business that was lucrative then. So I know I can do it now. So when I got to the core of, do I really need these things? I thought about the version of me that did do right things in building this other business, and realized she didn't have anything when she got started, and she was able to build this sustainable business that lasted, like I said, 10 years, until I really became fully dysregulated. So she started with nothing, so I can start with nothing again now. And so the need for a studio space didn't feel like an important investment. So when I made the decision to convert my garage, I looked at how I plan to use it in my overall big picture. And I tried to build it for that. Even though I knew that I wasn't going to need it right away, I still was projecting the future. So I was prepared when that time came. So essentially I was trying to manifest and timeline jump by like putting myself out there and saying, I'm investing into this, I'm showing up for this. So the couple of things that I did specifically is, I had all of my stuff in the garage when I moved in. So I had to really figure out how to consolidate that and make that work. So I cleaned all of that up. It was not an easy task, I will say. It was hot. It was terribly uncomfortable. I did it by myself. I lifted the boxes by myself. I did have one person come in and help me for a few minutes. And that person is a friend of mine who you will get to know in this series. We'll go into that later. But she helped me tremendously. And that was truly something I'm grateful for, that I have such great friends. And so anyway, I downsized, I shifted over, built my studio in the garage, and then I bought like flooring for the garage, and I bought sound panels. I got wood because I built fake walls. And then I also I had somebody create this. I actually hired somebody to create a gallery wall, so that if I had product shots, or if I was shooting with a client, like an actual person, I had a wall that I could use for photography and videography like I would in the studio. But then on the other side of it, when you turn it around, because it has wheels, you roll it around, the other side had the acoustic panels that I had purchased for the sound. And I intentionally created that because my podcast was the first and most important thing I was going to focus on. And that is truly what I will say when you're launching a business is, once you have figured out what it's going to take, the overall cost to run your business. And again, if you're bootstrapping this, Imagine that your time is your money, because time is money until you're making money. So until you can actually hire people to help you, you have to factor in your time and how much time it's going to take and how logistically you're going to do things and the efficiency of that. So once you have figured out that, whether you're bootstrapping and you're trying to figure out how you're going to make time to create this business that you want to build, or whether you have a little bit of money saved up and you want to invest into that, still looking at your overhead and what the expense is going to look like and how you project to receive that return on investment. Like once you've gotten all of that worked out and you've simplified it and you know what you need to do and you are already like looking at your business, like where to begin, assuming that you are in the same space as me, like I'm an entrepreneur and I have a service-based business. So I offer services. So if you have a service-based business as well, think about things in terms of marketing. And the reason why I say lean into marketing first is because a lot of times we want to do all the things. We want to speak to everybody with our brand messaging. We want to start marketing to everybody. And we think once we have a website, once we have a product or a service, and we post one thing about it, that everybody's going to come running. And that's not reality. Unfortunately, as much as I wish it was a reality, when you're building sustainability, that is just not a reality. And it's important to not really burn yourself out with whatever your energy type is. If you know your human design chart, it will tell you your energy type, and that will give you a really good indication of how to spend your time and energy. But if you don't know, intuitively, I think we all know the way our energy works best. So for me, what I did is I decided I was going to focus on 2 social media platforms, nothing more. And what I mean by focus on 2 social media platforms is I was going to create unique content for that platform. Now, I was going to reshare that content on other platforms, but the other platforms weren't actually my goal to grow. I was just, since I created the content, putting it out there on other platforms to see if it performed well. But my goal was to try to optimize 2 platforms and really build a loyal community who trusted me. So I thought about for myself, what feels the most authentic to me? Like, where can I actually feel myself showing up daily without burnout? And the 2 platforms that sounded best for me were my podcast, Create the Flow, and then also my YouTube channel. So for me, that's exactly what I prioritized first. And now I've been doing both of them for a few months. My podcast, technically, I've had since 2021, but I've actually been showing up twice a week on my podcast, whereas before I was showing up like twice a month. So I have really doubled down on this podcast. I've linked it to my YouTube, so it goes out on YouTube as well as Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. But I made it intentional effort to really get specific about my dream client, how to speak to that client, and where to market to that client. If you know me well or you've ever worked with me, I own a brand and creative agency as well as a wellness company. So my brand and creative agency specializes in building brands for people. I've spent 10 years building websites, building products, building all of the brand design, marketing materials. I've done all the video shoots, the photo shoots. I've literally done social media management. I have built some of my clients from 0 to millions of followers. So this was a no-brainer for me to double down in 1 or 2 areas that I felt would be sustainable, because that's something I used to teach them when I was still doing those services regularly. And even though I still do those services, now I'm very, very specific about who I work with, because I want to stay in a soul-led business space. So when you are building your business, you have to think about who your dream client is. What does that dream client need? What is like the transformation that they need in their life? What are they seeking? What are they Googling? What are their desires? What are their dreams? What are their goals? And what are they currently struggling with? And where are they currently showing up? Are they showing up on YouTube? Are they showing up on podcast? Is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram, TikTok? Where is your ideal client showing up? Because that's going to predicate where you should be showing up consistently to attract that client. A lot of people want to be, like I said, all over the place. But what happens is when we start showing up all over the place, we have a few different things that happen. The first thing is we don't have the time to create unique content for each platform. So we are just showing up with the same piece of content across all platforms. And it never optimizes well. You never monetize, because chances are you're not getting the same type of viewer on each platform. So, for instance, a talking head video that might perform really well on one platform isn't going to perform well on another platform that's created more for creativity or raw behind the scenes or carousels, or long form content that performs really well on one platform isn't going to do the same on another platform if that is not the audience that you are trying to attract. So you have to be mindful and get really specific with your client avatar. And that's what I did when I decided to build out my garage. I knew that if I had a studio in-house that was super simple, that I could just walk out and go to the backyard and access at any time, I would always film. There was no excuse for me not to show up and film this content consistently because I have simplified my process. I've also gotten hyper specific about who I speak to. Messaging is so insanely powerful when you are building a personal brand because you cannot speak to everybody. Just like you can't show up on every single platform, you cannot speak to every single person because your dream client is not everybody. Chances are your dream client is a younger version of you who had the same problem that you were able to work through. I know that my dream client is a younger version of me who had similar problems to me. That's why I am here as a nervous system regulation coach before a brand designer, before a business strategist, and before any type of mentor, because in order to sustain a business, you have to heal. So if your nervous system is not regulated, you've got to heal that. We've got to get you to that parasympathetic nervous system state, that rest and digest before we can build on top of that. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, your foundation will eventually crack. So to streamline this and keep the process here, when you are rebuilding, just know that you might have to give up a few things that you didn't anticipate giving up to build, but you have to be willing to go all in on yourself. And sometimes that means releasing your ego and allowing yourself to trust your process and knowing that it is not going to be easy. It's not easy starting over, but the more you work toward it and the more you show up and the more you exude the energy that you want to attract, the easier it becomes. And every day, the things that used to feel hard get easier. And you start to see growth and you start to see changes. So when you're making the decision to shift, to pivot, to start over, to rebuild, to start from zero, to make that 7-figure mark, to build a legacy brand, really think about what is sustainable for you, what truly authentically is possible for you, whether that is downsizing like I did and converting your garage into a studio like I did, whether that is choosing 1 or 2 platforms to double down on, whether that is starting over and keeping your job, but also having this passion project on the side. Whatever that looks like for you, try to get clear about that and detach from your ego and allow your soul to lead. Because this entire series is about being a soul-led individual, leaning into anything that feels truly aligned with you, that feels so good to you. And in order to do that, you have to trust the nudges and the pings that you feel. You have to trust your body to guide you. And I will tell you that it's scary. There is nothing that isn't scary about it. And that's why it's so important to do the nervous system work, to really heal and get regulated, because the more you get regulated, the less scary it is. And most people will never take a chance on themselves and invest into their dreams like you're doing right now. Even just by listening to this, you're showing up for yourself and you're thinking about what's possible for you. And I'm here to tell you that every single thing is possible for you. Everything is possible for you. But you have to believe in yourself and you have to put in the time and effort and keep showing up consistently. And you have to be willing to take a step back. You have to be willing to downsize. You have to be willing to release the ego, to regulate the nervous system and say, I'm here for the long run. Because sustainability isn't something you build overnight. If it was, we would all have sustainable businesses. It's not for the faint of heart. It's for the people who really believe in themselves, who really want to make impact and know that they are capable of everything. So I hope that this first episode of 0 to 7 really inspires you to live life on your terms, to get really clear about what you want and to start over. I gave up 3 homes, a very lucrative business, dream clients. I started over from zero. And I'm here to let you know it is possible. Every single thing is possible. It's scary, but it's possible. I love you so much, and I will keep sharing these. I'll dive into every single thing that has happened for me, the highs, the lows, the in between, and pretty much the growth of how long it's taking to gain loyal followers and what it's been like trying to get female followers instead of male followers, and really finding your mark in a very saturated space and letting the world know that you are here for them. I'll take you behind the scenes of the money that I'm spending, how much I'm making, how I have built my programs, and what it's been like marketing them. So stay along for the ride. I love you so much, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode.